I love 2D platformers for so many damn reasons. And I honestly think that it's really due to the fact that 2D platforming games can cater to so many different players. Look at Castlevania, for example. This game has a lot more slower platforming, and you're ascending vertically, and you have a ranged attack, whereas in Kid Icarus, you are completely ranged. However, there is a lot more verticality in these levels, thus there leaves a lot more room for enemies being aerial. Now, Wario Land is one of the greatest platformers for those who like getting dirty, domestic, as well as fucking rich. And that is one of the reasons why I think 2D platformers as a whole are just so awesome. So many games have come and gone that fit in the 2D platforming moniker, and I love them all to death. Even if they weren't the most perfect platforming game out there, I still dumped so many hours of my time into these and have so many memories with them. And I'm sad that I say I have to be selfish, but I must, because I only experienced the platforming games that I experienced. So if you don't see a platformer that you love on here, just know that it is probably wonderful. The atmosphere of Super Metroid is absolutely unmatched. From the moment we land on planet Zebes, the drowning music follows us as horrific creatures lay in our path. This game is more about a damsel in distress, but the fate of our entire galaxy as we know it. The isolation takes over, only interrupted by scattered foes and giant bosses that amplify the stakes to a new high. To this day, Super Metroid has a sense of horror no platformer has been able to replicate the same, but the platforming.
Super Metroid. Oh, it's so good. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I have a Spider-Man PS4. My opinion matters. This is the best side-scroller of all time. The atmosphere is so good, the spookiness is off the charts, and the isolation is so perfect. The only living beings around want to kill you. It's kind of like Lethal Company. The movement is so smooth. It's so fun to control, and as a wannabe speedrunner, I love it. The feeling of getting new power-ups that you need to explore new areas in the game is perfect. You go from being nobody to being an absolute god, and it's amazing. There's so many cool speedrun strats you can do too. You got the Mach Ball, you got the Alcatraz escape, you got the Zeb skip, and yes, this is all my own gameplay. Who want me? It's so much fun. You should go play the game right now, and since you stuck around for so long, you get to be a part of my prescription giveaway.
Now guns are fun. Metroid and Kid Icarus always stood out to me because they did the opposite of what Mario did. You see, in Mario's games I was running and jumping on people. The only range that I ever saw was through fireballs, and this was because I really didn't play any of the newer games yet. But my 8-year-old ass would not be ready for this particular title, even though I played Metroid and Kid Icarus, because Mega Man would take over. NES games were all about falling and getting back up. It was the indirect life lesson that was taught to us by these stupidly placed enemies and platforms. All that bullshit was a hardware trick to make a 30-minute game last weeks, but it didn't matter. Either we sat down, lived and learned, or didn't. And the original 6-stage plus Wily Mega Man on the NES taught me so much. Rockman is such an interesting title to me because it is one of the first platformers I genuinely could not put down till I beat. This game has you constantly changing your altitude, so you constantly have to be on the move and avoiding projectiles and enemies swooping in at you while trying to aim. How? Whether it be a bottomless pit or a bunch of enemies, there's always something trying to kill you in this game, and I love it for that. Plus, don't even get me started on the different weapons that you unlock throughout the game. It just offers so much gameplay variety. This game is such a challenging one, but it's also one of the most amazing things to overcome because the sense of accomplishment is so overwhelming. The boss fights. Oh my god. From the 6 main stage bosses to the final gauntlet provided by Wily, this game just has so many amazing boss fights, and then that final ending, wow! Just for the bah! Now Cuphead just absolutely changed the game. 2 weapons, parrying, and dashing. That is all you need for the Cuphead formula. This game presents mechanics that create such interesting boss fights, but also has amazing levels in between. No, this game is hard. This game is unfair, and that's how it's meant to be. It's meant to create a challenging environment that makes you basically have to no-hit most of the levels. But don't tell me this game doesn't put a pep into your step. And it takes lessons from Kirby's aerial levels? Come on, man. This game is absolutely awesome. I mean, come on, you can fight a Froggy, a Dr. Wily. What if they made Super Metroid again? Well, they did, and it's called Hollow Knight. This game is an absolute celebration of the platforming genre. But of course, the atmosphere is what takes this game into a completely different place. Unlike Metroid, Hollow Knight has a much more endearing environment that immerses the player in such a beautiful wilderness that I haven't seen done in a platforming game before. But that's the thing, it's more than just a cozy looking game because it plays like it's Mega Man. My goober gobbler monkey brain just cannot fathom how beautiful this game is, but also how fun and hectic it can be. In a time when platforming games were nearing their extinction, Hollow Knight was one of the few that would shine above the rest. And you know, the energy of battle is completely different in this game. I don't know how they were able to do it, but Hollow Knight just perfected everything that there is with a platforming game. I want to play something that won't make me lose an artery.
Hello, I'm Signy Cat. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is a very good game. Play it, play it, play it, play it, play it.
In terms of pure 2D platforming, this is the textbook definition of peak. The level design is so creative. In fact, every level essentially tells a memorable story. The camera even dynamically shifts through 3D environments sometimes. Cinematic Masterpiece doesn't even begin to describe this game. Tropical Freeze is, as far as I know, the only game that turns 2D into a spectacle. I could use any level as a case study, but we'll go with Sawmill Thrill. It starts with saws cutting wood into different shapes, then there's a log flume intermission, and then it culminates in a giant saw chasing you and cutting the only rails you ride on. In conclusion, I love Funky Kong more than I love my wife.
This is a good start. The Flower Kingdom is home to one of the most immersive Mario games that we have ever seen. Basically everything in the world interacts with you, from the little plant life to all of the animations of the different creatures. It is absolutely incredible. But it's so beautiful how this world is constantly moving, not to mention that the music is also constantly adapting to what you're doing. It's so incredible. The Wonder Flower and badge system allows for this game to just go so crazy. Water levels can even be enjoyable. But I love the theming within this game. Every world feels different. This game isn't afraid to go artistic and out of the ordinary, and I absolutely applaud it for it. There's a sustained energy in the world of Mario Wonder that is never felt in any other platformer. This game isn't afraid to just suddenly drop a difficult level out of nowhere on you, and it's your fault for wanting to get the Wonder Seed. There is a very low bar that is set for the player in order to actually complete the game, so it's really just up to the player's own curiosity to explore the different levels in this world and find secrets. When is the first time that you have ever truly been threatened by a Mario Palace theme? The palaces in this game are just absolute fun houses of different shit. While the Bowser Jr. encounters are still a little bit easy, I find that these levels are just so engrossing that I never really mind them showing up. Might I say that the Wonder Flower just adds so much to the Mario formula. There are some levels that I beat and I just think to myself, that was fun, and then I realize I didn't even find the Wonder Flower yet. Maybe it isn't the best platforming game of all time, but Mario Wonder genuinely gives me hope for the future of platforming games because, goddamn, but, you know, this is Nintendo. I think the indie guys need some more time again. I want to tell you a story about one of my favorite game developers because these guys have really been out of the game for a while and I really want people to have their eyes on them again. Let's talk about the behemoth. Dan Paladin and Tom Fulp are the masterminds behind this company, joined by others to create some of the greatest works of all time. Tom and Dan made some games before they joined forces, such as Pico's School and Dad and Me respectively, but when they joined forces, Alien Hominid happened, one of the greatest run-and-gun runners I've ever experienced, and then later, Castle Crashers, one of the greatest beat-em-ups I've ever experienced. I love the style of these guys' art. They have that particular whimsical Newgrounds humor about them, but it is just so fucking charming, and people ate it up. And hey, just this year, they released one of the greatest 2D platformers that I have ever experienced. It's a roguelike run-and-gun shooter, Alien Hominid Invasion. But that's for a different time.
Good evening, boys and girls. Turn the lights down low and shut your faces as I wrap you in the cozy blanket of a story. A story as heartwarming and soft as a mother's kiss. Or is it? Legend says he clenched his butt as hard as he could, but his little cheeks just gave out. Furbottom left nothing behind but his beloved theater, his precious kitties, his hat, and of course his bloated corpse, which was lovingly drifted out to sea and immediately ravaged by sharks.
See, every single gameplay aspect of this game is absolutely contextualized by the story itself. There's a start and an end to the stages? Well, that's because they're making you do these shows for people. The stages get harder and harder because the audience craves more and wants to see you do more death-defying tasks every time. Unlocking characters is actually you single-handedly buying all of your friends' freedom. You buy weapons from a black market dealer who is a cat that likes yarn that you find in the stages. I don't know how they contextualize death, but goddamn, this game does have a lot of story in it. As stated before, the real owner of this theater, Furbottom, died a long time ago, so his angry, pissed off cats have been running the theater, and Jesus. They do it by electing an individual to wear this cursed hat as they slowly wither away in the chair. Every single level that you complete is 1 inch closer to saving your best friend. This game is literally about friendship. A damsel in distress. But this game's platforming goes wild. Even on the single player, I was just absolutely baffled. I had never played a platforming game like this before. Because every other platforming game can be like, oh, it's a run and gun, or it's a game with a whip, or it's a game where you jump on things. This is a game where everything happens. The levels in this game are literally made with the level editor that is provided to you, so you get to just go little big planet on this shit. And the game gets insanely difficult by the end, and it truly feels like you are overcoming obstacles to save your best friend, and the ending is genuinely heart-wrenching. This game is replayable as shit. It's for the collectors, it's for the people who just want to speedrun through the game, it's for everybody. It's one of those games that comes once in a lifetime. But another one came. I've never seen a game know itself as much as Pizza Tower. What I love about this platformer more than anything else is that it takes several elements from all of the different platformers we've talked about and creates something new. Peppino is one of the most freely moving characters I've ever used in a platformer. While the controls are very complicated and nuanced, as you play the game, it makes sense. But you also have to learn the language of Pizza Tower. This isn't a platformer where you want to consistently be beating levels. Or at least to me, the game is pushing towards this playstyle where I'm consistently playing levels over and over again to see how faster I can go. People can make a Metroidvania but don't dare touch Wario. That's because the treasure hunting beat 'em up platforming style that Wario is home to is very hard to replicate. And when designing a beat-em-up platformer, it's very hard to create replayable levels because after you get the treasures, there's not much to go back to. But Pizza Tower designs its entire gameplay around this idea of speed. There are ramps everywhere around the game urging the player to continuously travel at running speed. There's 3 hidden areas and 1 secret door that you have to find throughout the level that sometimes can only be hit on the way out. You have to find the 5 blinking and dancing toppings that are spread out throughout the level, but this simple combo counter just makes me want to hit every single enemy in the entire level without losing it. The gameplay itself, once you're going fast enough, is so satisfying that you can't believe that you're pulling it off. It's just rewarding to see Peppino's reactions to all of this shit. This game's Microsoft Paint meets 90s art style is not only so beautiful, but it's also so fitting for the game. It's like they took a Ren and Stimpy episode and made it into an entire platformer, but it also makes the game feel so fluid. Peppino has so many damn animations throughout the game that you will probably miss a few. But the music sets the tone for this game. I have never heard a soundtrack that has more variety and passion put into it by a team of composers who are just passionate about what they are doing. All of these factors combine together to create one of the most profound works of art that I have ever experienced in my life. But then you go for lap 2. This game didn't have to use the tired, cozy art style to garner an audience. And I've coped with the fact that it didn't win anything at the Game Awards because to me, it won the whole show. The fact that it is even there and was released in January of this year proves that this game has impacted so many people and continues to. Pizza Tower comes to the table and offers one of the most unique platformers that I have ever seen, and it does the job that a platformer needs to do. It has a gameplay loop that is understandable but difficult to master. It has a set of locales and secret locations that'll constantly keep the player on their feet. There's many collectibles scattered throughout the levels that make sense in the context of the game. A bombastic soundtrack follows Peppino throughout the game, telling the player when it's time to scale it back and platform, and when it's time to book it. Pizza Tower is just the perfect representation of a platformer with soul. I urge you to play Pizza Tower, not just to enjoy it, but to let it change you.